Jay-Z, 444, let's discuss it. I'm so excited, Jay-Z, after 3 years, has decided to bless us or grace us all with his new album called 444. And for well over 20 years, he's been giving us some of the best music we've ever listened to. As far as being a rapper, and his influence in the genre is incredible. There's no other artist, in my opinion, that is still doing things the way Jay-Z is doing them when it comes to hip-hop, and is still alive. Now, I'll admit to you, I was a little shaky going into this project because, as most of you know, if I haven't professed it before, I wasn't a huge fan of Magna Carta. Although I did enjoy it, it was okay. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I thought Jay-Z's best work was before that album. And I can't say that I feel that much different about this album when it comes to his best work preceding him, but this album is nothing to overlook. This is a Jay-Z that not only have we not seen before, as honest, humble, and informative as he is on this album. No ID is producing this entire thing, so you know there's gonna be some heavy hitters on here, like the title track 444, which in my opinion has some of the most emotional depth of any Jay-Z song, probably one of the most emotionally explorative songs Jay-Z has ever created. And a lot of that, in my opinion, has to do with the instrumental. Of course, no ID on production with this thing, but I think this one, it just holds a bit more of a special place in my heart. Now, there is a severe disconnect from this song, in my opinion, when it comes to the subject matter, because there are a lack of people out there who are going to be able to identify with Jay-Z's struggles with cheating on what is considered to be one of the most beautiful women in the industry and risking the family that you've just recently created. However, like I said, the emotion in this song, you can just feel there's just an outpour of just raw emotion. That's all you can feel. It's just an outpour of emotion with this thing. What this idiot fails to mention is, although he loves the sentiment behind this track and what it does for the album in terms of context, he fails to mention how repetitive those looped vocals get. I mean, damn, I love this song, but the gets to me after a little while. I'm sorry. This whole track is pretty much spent apologizing to Beyonce, and there are many people who are going to speculate and say that this whole album is just a response to Lemonade, which in my opinion is the most ignorant thing you could say, because this album is so much more layered, it tackles different issues that directly affect Jay-Z. It's not just a response to Beyonce. But going into this thing, it starts off with Jay-Z pretty much eliminating himself. We get a Jay-Z who's a lot more focused, who's a lot more goal-driven, who's a lot more family-based and oriented, and in my opinion that works out better for this album, because I feel like a lot of it follows the mindset of someone who's trying to give a blueprint to not only people who are listening, but other rappers. Rappers that he mentions frequently within this album, like on Bam that features Damien Marley, or like I said, the intro track where he goes at other people, not just himself specifically, and letting people know that, yeah, I don't want to end up like these guys. In my opinion, this is probably Jay-Z's most open album when it comes to expressing his distaste for everything he's done in his entire life. The intro track starts off with him opening up about how he felt shortly after shooting his brother, and how he feels like no one would want to work with or trust the guy who shot his own brother. And if you don't know what that means, it's referring to a time back when Jay-Z was 12 years old, and he shot his brother in the shoulder for taking his jewelry while his brother was kind of going through a drug addiction. Talks about, again, the issues with Beyonce. Talks about, you know, how he shouldn't have X'd out Solange when really all he had to do was say he was wrong. I like how Jay-Z subtly throws himself under the bus while bringing a little bit of other people with him. But although this does bring some other people with him, in my opinion, it does mainly focus on himself when he refers to Eric Benet, which a lot of people think is a diss towards Eric Benet, which in my opinion isn't. It's actually more of a compliment to Beyonce, basically saying that I shouldn't go Eric Benet because I'm gonna ruin my Halle Berry, basically. I love the fact that Jay-Z puts it this way, because when you're apologizing to your girl, you gotta make her feel like she's on top of the world. It's also heavily influenced by Ye's decision to give him 20 minutes on stage, which he refers to on this record. He also says that, you know, maybe Ye isn't the only one that's crazy, maybe it's me too. I know a lot of people, again, will connect this to a diss towards Kanye, but in my opinion, it's a little bit more than that. The track Kill Jay-Z focuses so much more on Jay-Z himself and leaving himself behind that it doesn't necessarily just focus on the fact that Kanye did do him dirty. It also kind of goes back to his own conflict and saying this is how he thought at the time, but maybe he's also saying that Kanye isn't crazy. Maybe he's just saying, hey, maybe I got some issues too. Maybe I should probably open up my perspective a little bit instead of just saying that Kanye was crazy for going on stage doing what he did. Another track that I absolutely love on this thing is called Smile that features his mother. On this track, Jay-Z actually explores his mother's sexuality, kind of blaming society for the reason that she couldn't just come out. And this track also explores the bad in life and the good in life, basically saying you need the bad to experience the good and further appreciate it. It can make those good times that much better when you actually acknowledge that all these bad things that have happened. Again, further leading to my hypothesis that this may just be Jay-Z's blueprint for other listeners, other rappers, and his audience in general. Caught Their Eyes that features Frank Ocean is a good track in my opinion, but I don't think Frank is strong enough on this track for me to justify it, meaning that I feel like Frank unfortunately didn't deliver too strong of a vocal performance, so in my opinion he could have been replaced with any other artist that sounds similar. The title of the track also encompasses a lot of what the track has to do with about your surroundings, so I get that maybe Frank Ocean's voice could have been a little bit more low-key to kind of embody that message, like, hey, don't talk too much and be aware of your surroundings, and basically that kind of is Frank Ocean's metaphor by giving the verse and the delivery the way he did. Probably going on a stretch in that one, but I feel like it could have been stronger. I feel like there could have been replaced with any other person. Some of the tracks on this album are really hard-hitting, and in my opinion the fact that this is just a 10-track 36-minute album makes it that much sweeter. I've listened to this thing over 10 times in the span of 3 days, and I think that's partially because Jay-Z understands the fact that you aren't going to have that much to say for your 13th album, so you need to make it hard-hitting, you need to make it impactful, you need to say what you need to say and then get out of there. There's nothing really that we need to hear from Jay-Z at this point. You want to hear Jay-Z talk about something in his life specifically, go back to his other 12 albums. The track Bam with the one that features Damien Marley is also one of my favorites, simply because Jay-Z is also telling himself, while at the same time you do need to rid yourself of all these things that make you essentially a rapper, not having them can also be to your detriment as well. Like, you need to let these people know. And in a way, he's essentially letting these other rappers and these other artists also know that although you guys are saying what you're saying, you're not really about it. Lace front to the back, don't front, y'all gonna make me wig. Who says this? Before we had A&Rs, we had ARs too. Like, some of Jay-Z's best work lyrically shows up on this album. However, I do have to take points away from Jay-Z on this aspect, the fact that no one is getting a Tidal subscription to listen to this thing. Alright, I have another issue with this whole Tidal and what people are gonna say about it. Although Jay-Z alludes to the point on the Story of O.J. of supporting black-owned in black-owned businesses, he also fails to mention the fact that he's doing the exact same thing, which is forcing a streaming service that we do not need at all down our throats just to listen to this song. There is literally no selling point that Tidal has. The only thing making Tidal relevant is the fact that Jay-Z and Beyonce have albums on there. I mean, I'd be a lot more comfortable with a streaming service like Tidal if I knew that with Sprint, I was at least gonna get my phone calls. Yes, Jay-Z, you're pushing the worst phone carrier on the planet just to listen to your album, which says to me, I love the fact that you view this as a business move releasing your album and all, but do you not care about the customers or your audience? Hey, you need to subscribe to a whole cell phone service and my streaming website just to hear my album. What is wrong with you, my guy? I already know what people in the comment section are gonna say. Yo, you're missing the whole point. You need to support black-owned businesses. I'm just not dumb enough to believe that I should support something that's solely black-owned when there is another version of it I've been using for years that's more efficient. Tell me what Tidal does better than Apple Music or Spotify. The only reason you'd be supporting it is simply to support the person who owns it, who in fact is already almost a billionaire. I could see if Tidal was like a startup subscription streaming service that was from like this young kid who really didn't have that much money, and then we'd all pull our money together and be like, hey, let's just drop Apple Music and Spotify all together and support this kid. But we're talking about Jay-Z, the richest rapper in the world pretty much. Telling me I need a black version of Apple Music is essentially telling me I need the black version of a light bulb. They do the exact same thing, and one was created first, but now that you want me to support one and not the other, you mean to tell me I gotta reassemble my life, take out the white light bulb I currently have and go buy a black one? Drink bleach. Black people are not so simplified to the point where they need a black version of something to support it. If they're interested in something, they're gonna support it regardless. I know some people don't like that idea. Jay-Z even alludes to that point when he says, oh, you wonder how Jewish people got in the position they're in, obviously because they support one another. However, Jay-Z, you do understand that not every idea that is created by a black person is a good idea. You realize that. You being the owner of Tidal does nothing to change my opinion of Apple Music or Spotify. What the f***? has Sprint done for you lately, other than allow you to miss text messages? I think we're all as black people beyond the point where we need for something to be exclusively black in order to support it. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it was made by a fucking alligator. If it serves a purpose in my life, then I'm gonna utilize it. I'm going to support it. I don't care who it's from. And I get, to some degree, that's what a lot of black people, Jay-Z himself, are saying is the problem with some of the black community. I understand that. But if Becky's Barnyard is selling soul food that is equally as good or better than Tyrone's testosterone down the street, then I'm probably gonna support Becky. It's no racism. It's just what serves a purpose to me and convenience, which brings up my next point: Apple Music. Most people don't just use Apple Music because they don't want to support a black-owned streaming service. They use it because Apple Music is already integrated into the OS. Tidal is a separate application that you'd have to download in order to use it. The fact that Apple Music is already in the design makes it that much easier and simpler to use. Why wouldn't people use something that's already a part of the manufacturer's software? The whole Sprint thing just completely threw me off. You mean to tell me I got AT&T or T-Mobile or anybody at Verizon? You want me to get a Sprint 2-year contract to listen to your album for 36 minutes? Yeah, Jay-Z, you can go f*** yourself. You're forcing people's hands essentially to go get this thing either illegally or through other means that I doubt Jesus would approve of in order to listen to this thing. And you did the same thing with Magna Carta. That doesn't take away too much from the album if you're able to still get your hands on it like I was, because I had to get rid of my friend who was a subscriber of Sprint services and also a Tidal member. Then it is definitely worth the listen. But the one that hits me the hardest is the Story of O.J. This is by far my favorite track, and I don't know what it is about this track that has me so deeply connected to it. I think it's the video as well that also helps to push that emphasis and push that message that Jay-Z is really trying to create this song. I love the animation with this music video. That's one of the things that hit me the hardest. And I know I'm looking way deeper in this and going way deeper than I need to go, but the fact that this is essentially about what white people would consider colored folk, and the fact that it's a cartoon that's animated in black and white. The music video admittedly takes a lot of inspiration from Helen Bannerman's children's book, The Story of Little Black Bambo. It's a children's book that was published back in 1899, but instead of following the same narrative to some extent with that particular children's book, it paints black people in a certain light, in a light of togetherness. A lot of people will look at this and say it's a direct reference towards O.J. Simpson, which it is, because O.J. essentially says or believed that at some point in his career that he could disconnect himself from his own culture. A line that Jay-Z says on this song says, "I ain't black or I'm O.J.," in which Jay-Z and his character on the actual music video say, okay. He goes so much deeper than surface level on this track, even giving reference to people not dying and living for the neighborhoods that their mom is renting, instead to take that money or whatever money you get from doing whatever you're doing in your neighborhood to go and rinse it out and make a profit from it. He says on this thing how he's disappointed in himself that he didn't invest money into certain ventures before because now it's worth way more, and he's like, now I feel kind of stupid. I mean, a line on here again that sticks with me, he says, "I'm trying to put you onto $1 million worth of game for $9.99, like, and essentially reminding people that even though you think you may be in a certain position, there are some people, again, in the hook of this thing saying white, black, rich, poor, still black. So not to live your life solely as an individual, but to also not only help your community, but set up success for your family. It resonates with me so much more because it's a track from a guy who used to make music about coming out of this lifestyle unscathed and selfish to an extent. And to see he's making music to put people on has me proud of him, not only as a rapper, but as a fan of his music. To see this growth or evolution in an artist is rare, especially when they get to such an age. You don't really expect that much of a, an epiphany. Apparently the number 4 has a very significant, or plays a very significant part in Jay-Z's life, not only in his life, but Beyonce's and his daughter as well. Apparently the album is named 444 because Jay-Z woke up at 444 and began writing the song. As a songwriter, Jay-Z really shows his growth on that track 444. I believe he kind of delves away from being so much of a rapper on this album and goes deeper as a songwriter, and in my opinion that's great. You get a little bit more substance, a little bit less bragging, and a lot more meaning behind these tracks. Ivy is also the spoken number for the number 4. It's a Roman numeral, which is Blue's middle name. There's other things that play into the number 4, like the fact that Jay-Z's birthday is on the number 4, so is Beyonce's. They got married August 4th. Just the cohesive nature of this thing reminds me strongly of other albums like Illmatic or Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. You're gonna tell me you don't hear the song? Listen
to the soul.
The title track has so much depth to it because it feels like a song you would just emotionally pour into. This is not a song you can invest nothing into emotionally. You have to be somewhat emotional, somewhat stressed out, somewhat thoughtful when you're making a song that has this kind of instrumental in the background. Moonlight's another track on here that I feel like features a nice sample from a Nas album done off DJ Khaled's Major Key album. And I like the fact that he samples Nas's beat on DJ Khaled's album to kind of represent the fact that people do need to stick together. Moonlight was the title of a movie. As far as the cohesive nature and as far as the tracks that are enjoyable, as far as this thing not overstaying its welcome and the fact that you can listen to it all the way through and not have an issue, speaks volumes in my opinion. It is essentially a blueprint and an open letter to anyone who's listening, and on the final track it discusses his will and speaking to his daughter, telling her what he's doing all this for and why she's so important and why to his legacy she means so much, along with his set of twins. Overall, I think Jay-Z is in a much better place emotionally and mentally. The outpour of emotion, the outpour of thought, and the fact that this thing isn't done with its surprises yet because there's more to the visual. There's 3 bonus tracks that are being released. Adnis is one of them that features a letter to Jay-Z's deceased father that has an instrumental on this thing that is just, oh my god, I can't wait to hear the full song. I would definitely go ahead and recommend that you get this album. Jay-Z 444. If you're a Jay-Z fan, you need to listen to this thing. If you're not a fan of Jay-Z, you still need to listen to this thing. Tracks on here that are extreme starlights are definitely the track Bam that features Damien Marley, and the track The Story of O.J. Also 444, Kill Jay-Z. Like, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and leave a like rating down below. Let me know what your favorite part of this album was. What is the track on here you're going to be coming back to the most? And I am out to go listen to this thing again. See you guys next time. Peace.